Hi boys and girls, it's Miss Betsy. This is take 2, so I hope I remember to do everything I did in the first one. I did something wrong and for some reason I don't have the video, so we're going to do it again. So our story today, here, before I forget, remember 2 weeks ago we had the story about the rainbow and the promise, and I said to get a coffee filter and draw on it with a marker and get just a little bit of water, like a spray bottle or something like that. And as you can see, I probably got too much water on here, but this is what happens. When you get water on a coffee filter, it just soaks it all up and spreads it out. So what it does, it catches the color and it spreads the color around too. So if you draw it with a marker, you can draw anything. You can draw a rainbow, you can draw anything else and get it wet, and the color will spread like that. So if you already did it, this is what should have happened, and if you haven't done it yet, then you're welcome to try it. Like I say, it doesn't have to be a rainbow. You can draw anything you want to, and then see what happens to the colors. And I recommend using a spray bottle if you have one, or a saucer with just a teeny little bit of water in, or sometimes you can close it up like this and just dip the very center in the water. Not deep, just a little bit. And it will spread out all over the coffee filter. So that's what's supposed to happen there. And that, if you remember, was our story about the rainbow and God's promise. So this takes place, today's lesson takes place a few years after. And there were more and more people. And God wanted them to spread out, to go to different places and take his word along with them and, build more cities and just go all over the place. But some of the people didn't want to do that. They decided they wanted to stay home right where they were, all together, and build a big, strong city, lots of bricks, build a big, strong city, and then build a big tower. Now this is lesson 10 in your books, and it's in the Bible in Genesis chapter 11. Genesis is the first book in the Bible. Genesis chapter 11 verses 1 through 9. And do you know what a tower is? How many of you have been in a city and there are short buildings and then there's buildings that are real tall? Now we call them skyscrapers because they actually look like they're up there scraping the sky. Anyway, they're really tall. Well, in those days, people didn't build tall things. Most houses were only one story, and they had a place on the roof for people to go up, but they didn't have big, tall towers. So in our story today, you see that? That's the story, that's the tower that they were going to build. And they weren't building it just to build something big. They were building it because they thought it would make them famous. They would build the tower all the way up to heaven, and it would make them special people. But God didn't like that idea. So let's see what our story says today. Remember, Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 9, if you want to read it in the Bible. There, can you see? All people are alike, and all people are different. We all have eyes, but our eyes are different colors: brown, black, blue, or green. We all have faces, but our faces have ears, noses, cheeks, and chins that don't look the same. We have hair, but our hair might be curly or straight, brown or red, blonde or black. Our arms, hands, and fingers are different too, and our legs, feet, and toes are different. Our skin is different, and our voices are different. God made so many people who are all alike and all different. Now, the thing that happens in the story today is the people, they understood each other because they all spoke the same language. Now, some of you probably know people who can speak another language. They either moved here from another country, or sometimes people take lessons, or they take it in school so they can speak Spanish or German or French. And pretty neat to be able to speak a second language like that. They still speak English like you, but they can also speak another language. Well, in our story today, these people, they all spoke the same language, so they could understand each other. But what happens in our story changed everything. The Bible tells us about a time when God told the people to move to different places all over the earth. He wanted them to spread everywhere, but some people didn't want to scatter. They wanted to live close together, and they wanted to trust themselves instead of God. They wanted to feel important. They said, let's make bricks. We'll use the bricks to make a large city that will keep us safe. We'll use the bricks to build a tall tower that will reach to heaven. Then we'll be famous. God saw what these people were doing. He saw their strong houses and their big city. He saw the tall tower. But God was not happy with what he saw. He had told the people to move everywhere, but they were staying close together. They were disobeying God. So one day, God did something so the people would obey him. He mixed up their language. He scrambled their words into new languages so people could not understand each other. Some spoke French, others spoke German, some spoke Spanish, or English, or Russian, or Chinese, or Greek. They did not know what other people were saying. The people were confused and frustrated. They were ready to obey. On that day, people listened to God. They had learned their lesson. They stopped building the tower, and they packed their belongings and left the city. People moved in every direction. Some moved to the mountains, some moved to the oceans, some moved to the deserts, and some moved to the forests. People were ready to obey God. So, here I was going to hold up the globe too. You know there are people all over the world. Here's the United States. Whoops. Here's the United States. Here's us. And so most everybody speaks English, although in our next story we're going to learn about somebody who didn't speak English, but her family still loved her. And she did something special for them too. And this is South America. People speak Portuguese or Spanish. All the way over here, oh, that's Australia. People speak Australian, but they speak English, but it has an accent, very strong accent. What did I do with Africa? There it is. So there's so many different languages in Africa. All these different countries, they all have different languages. And here's Europe. Europe has English, of course, and German, and French, and Spanish, and Portuguese. And up here, Finland and Norway, Norwegian, and Finnish, I think they call it. So there's all these different languages, and they all developed because God wanted people to spread out all over the world. So I'm going to move the globe back over here. Now, I already did these sheets yesterday, so part of it is already done. Here are the stickers. Remember, this is lesson 10. Here are the guys on the tower. See, these guys must be up here eating their lunch. Must be lunch break. There's a bird flying beside them. That's one sticker. And let's see. Here's some people standing at the bottom of the tower. And where's our other sticker? Oh, our other sticker is this guy right here. You have your 3 stickers. And then don't forget on the back is a picture just like I had. And it tells you where to read the story again. And you can talk about the story and ask questions and maybe think up some more questions while you're talking with your family about it. So our other story is about this lady right here. If you can see her in the middle. Now that's her family. So of course they love her, right? Now she is his grandma. She doesn't speak English, and she still dresses like she did when she lived in China. So he was a little bit embarrassed about that. Now, maybe some of you have a family member who speaks a different language and doesn't speak English, and the people in the other countries that speak the other languages, does God love them like He loves us? Of course He does. He loves all people everywhere, no matter what language they speak and no matter what they look like. So let's read our story and see about this lady. This is Sai, remember? And that's his mom, his dad, and his grandmother. Sai was very excited. It was nearly time for the last baseball game of the season. The game was supposed to be last week, but it rained too hard to play. Sai hadn't played baseball in 2 weeks and he couldn't wait. After the game, all the boys and girls' families had planned a big barbecue at the park. What a fun day, thought Sai. Today I get to do 2 of my favorite things, play baseball with my friends and eat a huge meal. Sai, we'll have to leave a little bit early for your game today, his dad called. Okay, Dad, said Sai, I'm ready, but why are we leaving early? The park is right down the street. We are going to pick up your grandmother, explained Mr. Young. She really wants to see you play your last game of the year. Sai groaned. He loved his grandmother. Sometimes she baked cookies for him and his sisters when they came to visit. But she was very different from other grandmothers. Sai's grandmother spoke a different language. She only spoke a language called Chinese. She usually wore clothes like people who live in China. Sai thought she looked silly. Should he think that? No. He was embarrassed by the way she talked and dressed. Do we have to go get Grandma? He asked his dad. Maybe we can just stop by and visit her after the barbecue. Mr. Young was puzzled. Sai, why don't you want your grandmother to come and watch your team play? She's been looking forward to the game all week. I don't know, Dad, explained Sai. It's just that Grandma isn't like other grandmas. Nobody can understand when she talks. Now that's not true, Sai, Mr. Young corrected. I can understand when Grandma talks, and she can understand most of the things you say to her. Yeah, but I can't understand what she's saying, whined Sai. Mr. Young sighed. Your grandmother loves you very much, Sai. It would hurt her feelings if she knew you didn't want her to come to your game. So we're going to pick her up right now. As they drove over to pick up his grandmother, Sai felt a little bad about not wanting her to come to the game. Hi, Grandma, he said when she got in the car. Xiao, Shang, Hao, Sai, and I probably did not say that right, but she was saying good morning. When they got to the baseball field, Sai joined his team in the dugout. His dad sat with his mom, his sisters, and his grandmother in the bleachers. She looked so different from everyone else, and Sai was afraid that the other kids on his team would think he was weird because his grandma spoke Chinese and wore funny clothes. Now, was that true? No, of course not. His friends wouldn't think any different of him. When it was Sai's turn to bat, his whole family clapped for him. Then he looked over as he saw his grandma pulling something out of her bag. It looked like a large rolled-up poster. Sai's grandma unrolled it and held it over her head. It had large red letters painted on it. It said, you can see that, "Hit a home run, Sai." Sai laughed and his teammates cheered. After the game was over, Sai asked his dad, "How did Grandma make that sign?" "I helped her make it, Sai," said Mr. Young, "but it was her idea." Sai whispered a question in his dad's ear, and Mr. Young smiled and whispered back. "Grandma," said Sai, "wo, I, ni." And again, I probably did not say that right, but Sai's grandmother knew what he meant. "Love you too, Sai," she answered as she gave him a hug. Sai laughed. Hugs show love in a language that everyone can understand, and that is very true. So on your other paper, which is, of course, is the back of your book, we've got stickers here with 4 different languages and pictures of kids that speak 4 different languages. So what you're going to do on this one is you're going to match the sticker with the sticker that looks like it. So, which I didn't do, but that you can do that and peel your sticker off and put it on your picture. And of course, on the back, there's a picture of our story and some more questions down here that you can talk about with your family. So let me put this over here. Okay, so our Bible verse for today is God made people speak different languages and move to different places. Okay, can you say it with me? God made people speak different languages and move to different places. And then, of course, there's our verse for the whole month. Rainbows remind us of God's promise. Rainbows remind us of God's promise. And then our verse for the whole quarter, which is 3 months. And you know this one, I'm sure. God created heaven and earth. God created heaven and earth. Very good. Okay, so let's see. One of the things that you can do, there's the guide to those pictures so that they speak the languages they speak. Khmer, Arabic, Russian, and Nepalese. There's so many different languages in the world, my goodness. Okay, so you have your coloring page, which is just like the big picture, but you can color in their clothes any way you'd like to, and the tunnel. And as you can see in this picture, it's after the language has changed and they're trying to tell each other things and they didn't understand each other because God had mixed up all the languages. So that's your picture you can color. You can look on a globe and, spin it around and look at the different countries. I think that's, like for instance right there, I think is Greece. And they would speak Greek. And let's see, up in here is China, like the lady in our story, so they would speak Chinese. And let's see, Japan, they would speak Japanese. Let's find another country here. Yeah, this is actually a globe about different kinds of birds. Anyway, if we could find France, people would speak French. So you can look on your globe. Your globe at home is going to have the names on better than this one does. But you can look on your globe and pick out different countries and pick out what different languages they speak. Okay, now another thing you can do is look in magazines. Ask Mom first before you start cutting pictures out. But look for pictures of people who dress differently, different clothes from different countries. And you can make, it's called a collage, when you take a whole bunch of pictures and you mix them all together on your paper. They can overlap, and then you can put a frame around it. Or you can, the other thing that we talked about, of course, is because that tower was so tall, is to pick out short things, like a tent or a one-story house, or if you can find pictures of skyscrapers, tall buildings, and you can cut out pictures. See, so I don't think I'm remembering everything that I did yesterday, boys and girls, and I apologize for that, because I don't know what happened to my video. It just didn't record right. So we'll say our prayer. Now we have 2 more lessons, I believe. Let's see. Oh, I took the calendar down. Maybe 3 more lessons out of this book. And before we get to the other books, we'll have a new packet for you to pick up in the church office. It's not ready yet because I just picked up the books, but we'll have a new packet for you to pick up in the office so that you can work along with me. And of course, December, well, let's finish off November first. There's a holiday coming toward the end of the month when families get together, and sometimes they invite friends in, and they have a big dinner with turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes and sweet potatoes and pies. What holiday is that? Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is when we gather together and we thank God for everything we've been given. Thanksgiving, it's a day to give thanks. So then we finish November and we're going to get into December. And in December, there's a 4-week holiday. It's called Advent, and it's the 4 weeks before Christmas when we are getting ready to celebrate. What do we celebrate on Christmas? That's another day we get together with families. What else do we celebrate on Christmas? The birth of a very special baby. You know who I mean? Baby Jesus, yeah. And that we take that whole month to get ready because it's a really special day. So in December, we'll be doing Christmas things. You know what I forgot to do? When I told the story yesterday, I built something while I was telling the story about the people who didn't listen to God. So what am I putting together here? Getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I built a tower yesterday while I was telling the story, and that's what I meant to do today. Here, we won't make it quite as big. Pretty tall though. You see it? Yeah. Okay. So we talked about Thanksgiving, getting ready for Christmas. Let me move this over here. Getting ready for Christmas, which we will start to do in a couple weeks. The weatherman on TV suggested that people get out now and put up their Christmas lights because the sun's shining and it's warm, and in a couple weeks it's going to be cold. And it's so much easier to do it when it's warm out, but some people can do it now and some people can't. But anyway, so we will get ready for Christmas, and I will let you know when we have your packets ready to get ready for Christmas with your new papers, your new books, and some surprises. There'll be some surprises in the bag, but I will let you know. Okay, let's do our Bible verses again. God made people speak different languages and move to different places. One more time. God made people speak different languages and move to different places. Okay, and the verse for the month, rainbows remind us of God's promise. Rainbows remind us of God's promise. And the first verse, we've said this many times, so I'm sure you know it now. God created heaven and earth. God created heaven and earth. Very good. So that's our lesson for this week. This is take 2. I hope this one works. I'm going to go home and try and upload it now. So I hope it works. I thank you very much for coming. I really enjoy seeing you guys. Not really, I don't really see you guys, but I enjoy talking to you and kind of seeing you. And I hope you enjoy coming to the lessons, and I hope you enjoy learning and doing some of the crafts and things like that. But I'm really glad you come, so I thank you very much. I didn't say the prayer. Fold your hands, bow your heads. Dear God, thank you for our time together. Thank you for Bible stories, things we can learn about you. Help us learn to pray by listening to you. And thank you, God, for always, always, always caring for us, loving us, and always being with us anytime we need you. You always hear us. You always listen to us. Thank you, God. Amen. Okay, very good, boys and girls. We're a couple minutes shorter than it has been, so I'm sure I left something out because, you know, I've been running a little bit long, but that's okay. So I will, again, I thank you. I thank you very much for coming to Sunday school. I'm so glad you do, and I will see you next week.